Welcome to Real Talk with Tina and Ann. I am Ann, and today we have Denise, and she hasn't been out on for a while, so I'm really excited to have her back on. A lot's happened since the last time you and I have been on together, and we actually got to meet in person. Our families got to actually hang out a little bit together, and you got to meet my kids, and I got to meet one of yours. It was a fun day.
It was really fun. So exciting to be able to see you in person versus the computer.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it really does make a difference to actually see each other in person.
Mhm.
Tina will be back and we will have our regular episodes soon. I love who I am today. I
Mhm.
love how I feel. I love how the journey behind me has shown how strong I am, but also how much who I was hidden behind fear for years and
Yeah.
years. So we wear masks, many kinds of masks, but who we really are is living behind that mask. And I would say that one of my biggest reasons, and most people's reasons for wearing masks, is fear. Wouldn't you say, Denise?
I
Would
would absolutely say fear. Yeah. You can hide behind anything if you put a different persona in front of you.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody really knew me until maybe the last 10 years of my life. I've really
Yeah.
changed.
I agree for me too. I think we spend so much time behind it. We're so used to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really good point. I don't even think that sometimes we went so long with the mask on that we didn't even realize that that wasn't who we were. I think that we even thought that that's who we were.
Yeah. When you come from a background of trauma, it's
Mhm.
it's beat into you, I guess, from the day one. You were born into this story that they told, and even though you've changed your story, you're still so used to kind of protecting yourself from the outside, I guess, and you're just not you're
Yeah.
just, you're living inside two lives. I always say it's two lives. I live the outside life, which everybody typically sees, but there's an inside
Okay.
life that's like authentic. And it's
Okay.
scary to come out because it makes you vulnerable, or at least that's how we feel is maybe vulnerable by letting ourselves be who we truly are.
And I didn't want to let people in because I was afraid. Voiceless was one of the things that came to my mind when I was thinking about when I lived behind a mask. I was completely unable to say the things that I wanted to. And I could literally hear in my head the most amazing things that I wanted to say to people. I mean, I would like have this great answer response to what they were saying. And then I would just look at them and say, okay. I mean, it was
Yeah.
crazy that
Yeah.
nothing that was going on in my head was actually coming out of my mouth.
I think it's funny because I've done that and I still do that sometimes. It's almost like I don't want to say something and come off, I don't know, saying the wrong things. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? Because I
mhm.
want to say them too. It's like, oh, is that the right word? Does that word mean what I want it to mean? Because it sounds great to me. Because I
Right.
kind of sometimes maybe I make up my own language. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I get scared of saying the wrong thing. Like, oh, how are they going to perceive it? So I just keep it shut, But like you, it's like these incredible things that I think are inside and I want to say them. And
Well, partly, because I really am autistic. And so
yeah.
part of it is that. And I've really had to learn along the years how to be able to actually say the things I mean.
Oh,
And
yeah.
because I used to always be told, well, that's not what you said.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so, I mean, there is some of that going on, but it really is kind of using the tools that you have and learning. And over the years, I've learned how to actually say the things that I mean, to say the things that I'm thinking.
Hmm.
And it's taken me many years to be able to get to that. And I really do think that a lot of that was the trauma
Yeah.
response because when people are yelling at you, when people are doing and saying all kinds of crazy things are going on in the room, your brain shuts down.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you become like to the point where you only have a few words maybe that you could say. I mean, it's like trauma brain. It's taken me a while to be able to get to the point where I can actually say the things, but now I do. I mean, now, I'm a lot better at it. And the other thing was connection. That's one of the biggest things too, that I think that when we're living behind a mask, you're not able to connect. You're
Yeah.
keeping everybody at a distance. And I think everyone thought that I was either aloof or rude or I really didn't care about them. And that was further from the truth. I was just afraid. I simply did not let people in to my world. And I think it was not intentional either because it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to consciously keep these people out. Sometimes that's there, but it was just something kicked in and it took over me, and I wasn't able to reverse that. I wasn't able to let people in. So there was something definitely within myself that was keeping people out, and I didn't have control over it. And Tina and I have talked about irrational fears before on the podcast.
Yeah, definitely the same. It's I always call it like a wall I've always had where for some people they've gotten into this one circle, right? But then there's
Right.
this center core that even they can't get in because you're just yeah, you're kind of built into silence. You know what I mean?
That's good.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
will say this. So, um, something that I had used to do, and I only talk about this because it's, you were talking about this, this inside voice or this inside.
Yeah.
When there was trauma going on, things were happening to me, I had learned to shut myself off, even from the chaos, into silence, like into that silent world that nobody can hear me, nobody can see me,
Mm-hmm.
as these traumas are going, going on. So you're, trapped in silence. And so it was a protection though. I thought in my little world,
Yeah.
and I learned to do that out, like you start to that, and now that was when I was younger. But as I grew, it just kind of grew with me. You still had those things
Mm-hmm.
that you were so used to. It was kind of routine to you that you didn't even recognize that it was happening. I don't know about you, but you didn't recognize it until truly you started to come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize
Oh,
how much until I was like, oh my God, like, I was really silenced more than I thought. And you lose that part of your authentic self. And I love the word authentic because we're trapped behind this. We can't truly be ourselves because we're trapped behind that fear.
yes. I think that the fear lived right here.
Yeah.
And I honestly think, I really do believe that the majority of my childhood, young adulthood, into my adulthood, well into my adulthood, that people did not know the real Anne. I mean,
Yeah.
they just didn't. And I think I even believe that that's who I was,
Yeah.
that quiet person, that disconnected person. When you're really afraid of people, you're just going to keep everybody out. And that's just the way it is. The example that I jotted down was the movie Jaws. And I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Yes, I did. That's my irrational fear of the ocean.
Yes. But I've always been really afraid of sharks because of
Me
that
too.
movie.
Yes, yeah. I, I saw it young.
Yeah, well, me too.
Yeah,
And sharks hurt people, they kill people, and so then you're afraid of them, and then you never go in the ocean again. And that can be a somewhat of a rational fear,
yeah,
and it can turn into an irrational fear if you don't even want to put your toe in the water, I guess.
yeah,
But you do that with humans, and that's what I've done. I've done it with humans because they were the ones that were hurting me, and so then I've kept them out of my life. A lot of people that
yeah,
probably I could have had great relationships with, but for some reason, just something triggered me, and I just said, okay, I'm not having a relationship with you. So,
yeah. I feel the same way too. And the sharks thing, yeah. I realized, um, you're just so used to being behind that mask. And I agree, you miss out on some friendships too because you're just so afraid of, I think I call it messing up. Do you know what I mean? You have this fear of not being accepted. So for me, it was easier for me to hide in my little, shell than it
Mhm,
was for me to come out and be me because of
mhm,
that fear of judgment, what will people
mhm,
say? What will, of who they were.
mhm,
And
mhm.
it took, I'm still kind of coming out, to be honest with you. Like
Right.
found I found that I started to take off the mask once I had courage to speak up about the things that had happened to me. It's what I do now. I speak to schools and whatnot. I wrote the book. And once I started doing that, it was a whole new thing for me. I was less afraid. So now I'm not, I should take this back. I think I will always live with some kind of fear, some kind of mask, because I
Mhm,
don't want to allow myself to have people still come in. Maybe I'll let them in to a certain point, but I never take that fully off. I think for some people I do, but I think it's just that fear. And as I've been able to have the ability to use my voice,
mhm.
that has shown me, even me, a different part of myself that I didn't, I'm sure was always in there, but I've never recognized it on the outside.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was younger, and I've talked about this before, but I failed speech
Yeah.
because I would do everything but speech.
Yeah.
Did all the tests, all the quizzes,
Yeah.
and I did really well in all that stuff, but every single time it came to the actual speech in class in college or in high school, I wouldn't do it. So I would miss that part. So I ended up getting, I think it was actually like a D minus because I did do the other work. But I mean, it's really funny because that's what I do now is
Yeah.
I speak and I want to speak and I want to have a voice.
Yeah. You know what? I was so quiet. I was always in trouble at school for talking. But outside
Mhm,
of that, I was very shy. I think for me, school was a safe place for me, especially when I was in elementary school. My God, I would get in trouble all the time. I mean, if you sat next to me, you were getting in trouble. I don't care what was going on. I'm going to talk to you, and somehow you're going to be pulled into being in trouble.
oh, that's
I mean,
funny.
that's just how I was.
That was not
Um,
me. I was the opposite. I was the opposite.
were
If
you?
you were sitting next to me in class, you wouldn't have gotten a word out of me. So,
Oh, no, I was very talkative. But outside of school, outside of my little small group of good friends,
mhm,
and this is elementary school, probably I got a little bit I don't know. I got myself in a lot more trouble as I, got older. But outside, like in my family, I was
mhm,
very quiet. I was in my extended family, I was so quiet, but you learn to do that
yeah.
when you have to hide everything. It's easier to stay silent than it is to say something.
Isn't it funny how we can be completely different people in different situations?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I
And
mean,
yet,
it's crazy.
yeah, I always said that this is so funny because we're talking about hiding behind the mask and things like that. And here I am. I'm doing the opposite now as myself. I'm speaking in front of educators and teachers. I've written a book. Like, if you can't put yourself all the way out there, I've
Right.
gone from this to this. But again, there's still like there's still part of you that is afraid to let it all out, you
Yeah.
know? But
Yeah.
yeah, I used to definitely get in trouble. I was,
You touched on a little bit on some of the things that happen when we are afraid. And one of
yeah.
that is being made to feel as if, people are judging us.
Hmm.
And if, even perfectionism can set in because you just feel like you have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And so you'll procrastinate because you don't want to, you're afraid that you're going to be wrong or
Hmm.
whatever you're doing, it's just not perfect. And so it creates all these other kind of side things that can happen because, you want to be and make everybody happy and not make people upset.
Yeah. I think that that's trained in that. So, when you're just, when you're taught it from a younger age, it just becomes so normal that that's life for you. You don't know life any other way. And as you said in the beginning, um we're hidden inside. We kind of have this person that we know we are. It's
Mm-hmm.
just it's when you're, like I said, when you're made to believe all the outside stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you just learn how to keep them inside hidden. And it's two lives. I always talk about this. I always say there was two lives. I lived the life at home and I lived the life at school. So they were my two lives, and I never intertwined them at all. So you had your, we'll call it, a lack of better words, mask at home and your mask at school, or your mask at home and your mask in public. And I think
Mm-hmm.
I think there's still part of us that does that. I think all of us maybe have that too.
Sure, to a certain degree, but for different reasons,
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that you did was you were an angry kid and you used
Oh,
to get into a lot of fights. And I think that sometimes we're
yeah.
like that because, and that's another way of the fear coming out.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I did get in a lot of trouble in my middle school years. Yeah, it was the only outlet I had, or at least I felt I had. And so I would just, yeah, I would take everything that's trapped inside, and the only way that I knew how to get it out was fighting.
It's that fight or flight,
Yeah.
or either running away from,
Oh,
or
done
we're
that too.
fighting, or we're
Yeah.
fighting. I
Hmm.
mean, I think that it's either or.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's funny because a lot of people now, when I tell them, the trouble I was in, like I'm a different person now because obviously I'm an adult, and as I've grown older and faced a lot of the silence, and now that I'm talking, if I say to a friend that knows me now, oh my God, in middle school, like I tell people now and I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, in middle school. I mean, this is embarrassing, but I'll say this, my yearbook, and I just found one. I don't have a lot of stuff from when I was growing up, but I found the yearbook, and in the back, everybody's writing, "Hey, would you go beat this girl up for me? Would you go beat this person up for me?" And like I literally back then, it was my outlet. So I was like, "Sure, I'll do it. Sure, I'll do it." No one now who knows me now can believe that that was me then.
I know,
We just change, and
right?
we come out of that fear. I mean, I don't know. I don't know for you or not, but you mature with it, so it changes and morphs in different ways. So you're
Hmm.
high, at least for me, I've hidden them, and I don't fight anymore. I like to tell my daughter, if anybody comes after you, don't you worry, I'll swing hands. But
Yeah, it went into needing to numb for me, and I
um,
started drinking all the time. I mean, day and night. It got to the point where I was waking up drinking and going to bed drinking, and I started when I was 11 and I stopped about when I was 30. But I think that that really was what helped me be able to be more of me in a weird way. And I'm not telling people to drink because it was a different version of me that I thought was me. Still wasn't me. But
yeah.
I thought, because I could be more fun, I was able to open up a little bit more. But all it did was kind of let my defenses come down a little bit more, but I still wasn't who I should have been.
Yeah, I think I was probably similar where I drank too in middle school. Um th- I don't know that it opened me up. I went for the numbing portion
That's
of it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that was, yeah, it was a couple of years that I did that, and then I didn't for like drink for like 2 years, and then I was 21 and I drank again. And but yeah, I can see that if you're a quiet person like you were, in order to come out of your shell, sometimes they say, if you drink a lot, you'll say the things that have been trapped inside of you that you don't want to say. A lot of people will say things that they've always thought, but they never said anything because now they're, free to
Hmm.
be able to say it. Um, I never had that though. Mine was definitely the numbing.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh, me too. It
yeah.
really had, I think that that's where it stemmed from, was
Yeah.
numbing. But then I kind of eventually liked who I became. And it
Yeah.
was, I became the quietest one in the room to the person who was one of the most fun. So,
Mm,
but I'm not proud of that because,
yeah.
now, I mean, I don't drink and I am having an amazing time and I am me now. I'm
Yeah.
finally me. And if I was drinking, I wouldn't be me. I wouldn't be the me I want to be. So, if that makes any sense.
It does. So do you feel like you're the you both at home and outside? You're like 100% authentically you now?
I believe so because I think that this podcast has helped me. I think when I wrote the book years ago, I think that this has all been a process to get me to where I am,
Hmm.
where I like who I am and I have a story to tell and I want to help other people. And I think that my mission behind who I am really changes what I share and why I share it. People sometimes when I've shared some things, they've been like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I'm like, "No, that's not the purpose behind this. I'm
Right.
sharing this because I want to help other people. And I know that if there's a little nugget of information or wisdom or something that I've taken along with me from the pain that I've had in my past, that I want to be able to help." So,
Yeah, I think well, I think I'm coming out of everything. I still think I have ways to go, but I definitely feel in similar with what you just said about, if it's going to help someone. Um I took a big chance and I, let a lot of that stuff out there, like it
mhm,
almost like it spewed all of a sudden. But you know what motivates me for that? And maybe that is kind of putting down the mask. What motivates me is I see the 14-year-old me in someone else that's sitting in a classroom that is shut off, that doesn't have the voice, that is hiding behind all that fear and not
mhm,
being able to take the breath to be them. And they shelter themselves and they shelter
right.
all that. And so I think for me, I really did have that where that's helped me. I'm like, no, I'm gonna use the voice. I'm gonna be that voice. And as I've used my voice, I have, like you said, I really am happy with where I'm at and with who I am.
Yep.
And I'm still getting used to it. I'm not gonna lie. Yes, I talk. Yes, I wrote the book. Definitely helping me, but I know that I have a far I have a lot more to go. I don't think I'm 100% there, but I am definitely making progress.
And honestly, I think until we take our last breath, that we're always growing. I mean, there's
Yeah.
always room for improvement, no matter who we are. Uh, so many people have been going through my head while you're sharing, and one person was one of the people that they helped get me out of the worst situation in my life. And that's not an exaggeration. And the reason why she helped me was because she was a counselor. She was in the helping profession and she got up at a church and she started sharing her story and she started sharing something that helped bring my mask down a little bit for me to
Mhm.
be able to let her in. And then it started a relationship with her. But that's what the proof is when you start sharing your story, what it can do on
Mhm.
the other side for somebody else that's listening.
Yeah, yeah, I've had that too. I've listened to a couple people and I'm like, okay, but I still, yeah, for me, I saw them, but I wanted to be that, but I wasn't there yet. But it was something that helped
Sure.
me to strive to be that, to have that courage. I had somebody say, um, this was on one of the social medias after like I posted something of well, I'm not even sure what it was, but it was on one of my social medias, and I got this is perfect for this. I got a private message from someone and said, um, thank you for saying the things that all of us want to say, but we're too afraid to
Mm,
say them.
mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, and that's I think that's the same way. It's like, you hope then that your voice helps them to maybe use their voice. And, you know, I equate the mask, as we're using our voice, that mask doesn't have to be there so much. You just start to open that up, take it down, even if it's for a minute to take a breath. I think for me, when I was growing up, I had all these teachers, and that's who helped me take my breath. They take it down for a second, long enough for you to just breathe in once, and then you could put it back up. But it
Mhm.
was all these people that just slowly, slowly, pushed away. But again, I'm 49, and I know that there's still part of me that is up there, especially around certain situations or certain settings, because we feel that fear in those settings. So if you feel that fear, automatically the guard goes right up, and you lose the mature person that you've already been. Do you know?
Well, or you also, that mature person realizes, hey, this
Oh
person
yeah.
across from me is not safe, and you recognize the triggers, and then you
Oh,
say, okay, I need to reel it in. No, you're not the one I'm going to let in. And it's not wrong to do that.
okay.
It's
Yeah.
actually really healthy to do that because sometimes the person across from you really does need to be kept at a distance.
Yeah. It's your boundaries.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. Not
No.
everybody needs to be your best friend. Not everybody needs to hear
Yeah.
your entire story unless they're in the audience and you're up there
Yeah.
talking about it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, there are healthy boundaries and we need those.
Yeah. I think a lot of times too is when you find your small circle of people, that's when you're most comfortable, and
Mhm.
that's where you learn how to be you, because those small people, the small circle, like I call them a smirkle, small circle. I call 'em
Yeah,
my circle of friends,
yeah,
and I definitely feel the most comfortable with them. I
right.
definitely feel less that I could just be myself. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So everybody else, but yeah, the speaking, I mean, you got to let yourself out there. I mean, I've got to let everything out there.
That's what we've been called to do. And so
Yeah.
that's your
Yeah.
mission. And I really do believe that. It's really funny because back in it was one of my first really big jobs in the field because I got a counseling, I have these degrees, and so I wanted to go into the helping profession, and I ended
Mhm.
up being a director of a battered woman shelter, and it was one of my most every single job I've ever had, I really feel the mission and the purpose behind it.
Mhm.
So I did all the things. I did all the things. I was great. I really loved going to the hospital and helping the women there and transition them into the shelter and help them in their life and help get them jobs and help the staff be who they needed to be and all the things. Um, but then the I was the director of the shelter, but there were many facets to this
Yeah.
organization. And the head of the whole entire thing says to me, you're going to speak in front of the board. And I just went, no,
No,
I'm
not
not.
me.
And she said, yes, you are. And I froze and I called in sick that day.
Oh no.
And I did not do it
Oh.
because And I'll tell you why. It wasn't like, and this is years ago. Would I do it now? Yes, but I would go in, and this is the autism in me. I would have to sit in a certain place. I couldn't have people close to me. I would have to hold on to something. I would have to have all my senses taken care of in order to do it, but I would do it. But
Mm.
back then, all I did was see the intimacy behind what she was asking me to do.
Mhm.
Because they just wanted to hear about me. They just wanted me to come in and share and meet me. And I panicked. I just
Yeah.
panicked. That wall, see, I was one way with the women in the shelter because that was my mission to let
Right.
the wall down with them.
Yeah.
It was a different thing when there were people that were of power for me to sit across from them. My mission wasn't there anymore. It just changed. It scared me. And I again became voiceless.
Mhm.
So I couldn't even show up. So,
That's really interesting. So, as I'm hearing you, everything's coming to me as in these certain settings. When I am talking to people who can have relatable situations with me.
Mhm.
I sit on the board for a nonprofit shelter for youth. If I'm talking to any of the youth, if I'm talking to the young adult or whatever, I have, it flows because there's some kind of relatability. You don't have
Mhm.
any like your walls come completely down because you have somebody across from you that number one, if your not guard, if your wall is down and you're more open, they're going to be more open to you. So
Mhm.
you're not hidden because they see your vulnerability. And
Mhm.
when I'm speaking and I'm speaking to teachers, it's not the
Mhm.
kids, but when I'm speaking to teachers, I know that they are going to have an effect on those kids. So
Right.
I pull down a little bit more, not a lot with them, but I pull. But I'll tell you what, here's where my guard goes up, and that's how I was thinking about this when you talked about speaking.
Mhm.
I sit on the board, and I sit on the board with the most incredible humans. They are so good. Their mind is in the right place, their hearts are in the right place. But my guard comes up because they have, and this is kind of like a weird thing, but it is what it is. I shut down and don't use my voice as much as I feel like I should, I could. Not that they've ever said no to me. I mean, they want my voice. I'm there as the voice of youth. Um, what intimidates me is that these are highly educated, meaning college graduates,
Mhm.
they're in these businesses that, are all up here. I didn't graduate college. I went for a semester or two. I don't
Mhm.
have that educational background. I mean, my
Yeah.
expertise is in what I've lived through, right? So
Right.
that's where I can do my authentic self with other people who are experiencing that. And then again, with
With
the
hard
teachers,
knocks, which can be some
yeah,
of the, I mean, our experiences can be the best teaching tools for other people.
yes. Yes, but we always get into the situation no matter how good we get with the speaking and stuff like that. There's going to be a
Right.
group that all of a sudden you're like, you know, you get, I don't
You
know.
get intimidated.
You do. I had this one. I have to tell you this real quick. I had this young adult that I'm, helping to do the blog with for our thing, and she has such a just a confidence about her that I wish I had. I mean, she's like, she's old enough to be I'm old enough to be her mom, but she has this confidence. We were talking because again, I can have these discussions. So, that mask is down because your fears are down because you're talking to somebody who has been in situations. And I said to her, I was like, oh, when I get to this setting, and she, we're on Zoom, and she looked at me, she was like, don't you ever there, this girl is 20 something years old, and she was like, you can't let people like that intimidate you. You just got
Yeah.
to go in there like you are. I forget what she said, but she said such good words that I was like, so that's been on my mind. But it's funny how we get in certain settings and shoo, you know what I mean? But yeah,
Sure.
I definitely feel more at ease and more comfortable not wearing a mask and being more of just who I am because that's me when I am speaking to the youth or the kids or even somebody else like yourself who has shared similar backgrounds where we have a relatability against us. And then again, with just the teachers, I don't relate, but I know that they're going to affect the kid that like me. So I try to well, I have to. I mean, my speech is about my story, so I guess I need to let down a little bit to be more,
Hmm.
to share that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy.
When my mom passed away, up until she passed away, I was a person that I could say my mask was about as thick as it possibly could be.
Yeah.
I, there was nobody or nothing that I was gonna let in.
Yeah.
After she passed away, and I always say that I started breathing the day that she stopped breathing, which is pretty powerful.
It
But
is.
I do, I have a tattoo that is the dove, and
Oh yeah.
it says faith in God's hands are releasing the dove. And it's so funny. Well, it's not funny. It's really strange. But after she had passed away, I was with one of my daughters. She was with me when it happened.
Mhm.
We leave the hospital. We're driving down the street. it's like after midnight. I'm like, ugh, I need gas. So I pulled over, I'm at the gas station. We had balloons, helium balloons that had been tied to her bed. For
Mhm.
whatever reason, I wanted them. And I took them and I had them in the car. I had them in the back seat of the car. I opened up the front seat and here I am. I'm getting the gas and everything. And out of nowhere, and I'm talking these balloons were tucked in the back of the seat. They weren't moving.
Mhm.
Out of nowhere. The door was open and they they just went out of the car. And we tried to grab them or whatever. And I
Yeah.
mean, there wasn't a wind, there wasn't anything, there was no reason for them to leave the car. They were secure.
Oh,
And out of nowhere, they just like leave. And it was the absolute strangest thing. And we both tried to grab them, and it was like a power or a spirit or something greater than
yeah.
us made that happen. But it represented to me the that I was free, she was gone, and it
Yeah.
was like those balloons just took up everything with her. It was so profound to me.
Yeah.
So I got the tattoo because I wanted it to represent where I am now in life. And I really believe it took a lot, most of the mask up with her.
Mhm. Yeah. I felt a little bit the same. So when I ended contact with my mother, which caused everybody in my family to disown me except for two cousins, there was a little bit of relief. I still like was very shocked. It took me years, but it was like all of a sudden I can use a little bit of my voice. And then
Hmm.
when my grandmother passed away, a couple years ago, it was similar. It was like, and I know I said to someone, I said, now I could breathe. And actually they said, now you can breathe too. It was really weird. But
Hmm.
it's crazy the people who put those fears in you, and they're the ones who put I call it, for me, it's like their hands over your mouth. So for,
Hmm.
that's your mask or whatever. Once they were out of the picture, yeah, you do kind of have that area to breathe and let things down. Let that guard down a little bit because now, I don't know, it's a freedom. I definitely agree with you when that and same with a little bit of last breath when my grandmother did, I was like, I know I'm free now. Well,
Hmm.
somewhat. I still have adversities on, the person that's still living. Even without contact, there's still issues, but in the big picture, you're finally free. And I think that that's what helped me too, to be able to write the book, to be able to come out and speak, because now I
Hmm.
didn't have any of that um, keeping me quiet.
Hmm. Yeah, you're talking about, I mean, did you ever see yourself doing these things that you're doing now?
No, because I would have been terrified,
Yeah.
terrified. Well, and inside of me, I always wanted to help somebody. Like I wanted to help someone because I've always had
Right.
that in me. But did I think I would be helping them in this capacity? Absolutely not. Like
Yeah.
maybe it was in there and you always thought something, but oh God, no. I mean, no, no. But I mean, it's who I am though. Do you know? And like you said,
Hmm.
like I know that this is what I'm supposed to do. Like I know this is my purpose. This is where I'm the happiest. I'm obviously I have a wonderful family. I'm happy, but me as the person, not me as the mom, not me as the wife, not me as the friend, me as the
Hmm.
person.
Hmm.
Um, this is what I'm supposed to do. So that does kind of help me. It reassures me I'm doing the right thing,
Hmm.
because it makes me happy.
Well, I think that lots of times fear keeps us from being able to tap into our talents. And so
Hmm.
I always wanted to be a broadcaster. I always wanted to be um, all these things. I mean, this was my passion, what I'm
Yeah.
doing now behind a microphone. And I, as a kid, my creativity was what actually helped bring me out from
Hmm.
being able to be behind that mask. And we recently have been dealing with the death of my brother, and so it's really kind of really brought up some of those traumas again. And so what ended up happening for me was that kid in me said, "You know what? I'm going to start drawing again
Mm.
and start tapping into some of my talents again because it can really stifle you to the point where those masks can keep you from even being able to know where you can thrive and live and love and
Yeah.
feel and all the stuff that helps you be you."
Yeah.
And my creativity and my photography and my drawing and my writing and all those things, um, and I also make associations because when my dad had died, I was at the best in my swimming career, if you want to call it that. But back then it was heading in that direction. And so then I ended up quitting when I had to be taking care of my mom because I really felt so much heaviness on me to take care of my mom all the
Yeah.
time because I was the only one. So I really, there were so many opportunities. Like I wanted to go to Juilliard. I wanted to do like all these things to even go to New York or LA or, because that was my
Yeah.
passion and what I wanted to do. And I was just like, no, I have to take care of her. So I kept putting everything that I wanted on hold for somebody else. But I think the other part of it was that I didn't feel as if I was worthy. I believed all the lies. I believed all the
Yeah.
fears that I was even telling myself. So I kept my own self um, here where, stuck. I guess that's a really good word. I kept my
Yeah.
life from being able to really become who I wanted to become because I believed all those things.
Yeah, when we were talking about this, all of a sudden it reminded me, in high school and thereafter, I got into acting. And not because
Yeah,
I
so did
was
I.
trying,
Yeah.
yeah, I wasn't trying to. So for me, the acting was, I wanted a family so bad. I wanted a mom so bad. And I thought, well, if I can't have it in reality, I'm going to do this. I'm going to have it on, to be able to do this. And I can pretend to be this person I really wanted to be. So it was, those things. Obviously, I got married and we moved out to the middle of the country, so that kind of
Hmm.
went away.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, those things they kind of mask you again, for me it was that I don't know that that was gonna be me, but I knew I wanted it to be me. And if something came along right now, I'm not gonna lie, I'd be like, all right, what do you want me to do?
Me too.
You
Oh,
know?
me too. I am all about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally there now. Probably more confident now because you do tell yourself you're not worthy of something. You hear, especially in the acting business, because I remember so many times I'm short, I'm small, I don't look my age, I have a higher voice. And back in the 90s, that was, you can't get anything because you had to be the actual age of the character. You had to be the size of the character. I mean, everything
Right.
about me worked against me. And
Right.
that goes into, again, that you close yourself off and you put,
Mm.
like, there goes the wall because you
Right.
want to protect yourself. So
Right.
you don't explore the things that maybe you want to explore for that fear. Like, I'm so used to, I always said this, I was so used to living in chaos, in that silence, that anything normal or out of that silence scared me because I didn't
Hmm.
know how to thrive or be me outside because I was so quiet for so long.
My daughter had so much trauma by the time she was 18 months.
Mm,
I mean, I just hate this for her. I mean, we got her when she was 18 months and she's made a lot of progress, but she really hides behind that mask.
hmm.
And I hate that for her. I hate when kids learn so young that they have to live behind that mask. It's just not fair because they didn't have a chance to start their life before they already had that mask on.
Yep.
And she gets into so much trouble at school and in different areas of her life. But behind that mask is the most absolute beautiful soul. She is so helpful and caring and loving and then she feels the least bit of threat or whatever goes on with her, and
Mhm.
it just comes out in like the worst ways. And I'm like, wait a second, you're too pretty to act like this. You're too beautiful inside to act like this. So what's going on? But it's that learning so very young that
Yeah.
I'm going to start acting out and I'm going to hate and I'm going to punch and I'm going to fight
Yeah.
because I've got these masks on and I'm afraid.
Yeah. No, that's exactly that's what I did too. It was, you just, that's all you know. And that's what protected you. I have
Right.
a, I know somebody now. It's actually somebody I related to that only one of two. So different on the outside than on the inside. And I just recently have been able to know the inside person, which is so total opposite of that outside
Mm-hmm.
person. That I mean, like we talk about fear when you were talking to me about doing this, immediately she came to mind
Oh, okay.
because I'm like, again, only because recently I've gotten to really get to know her, and I'm like, oh my God, who the hell are you now? Like,
Right.
what is that? I mean, literally, it was like, and I tell her all the time, I'm like, you are the last person that I would see this other person inside.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's how opposite it was. It's this such, and I always say, what are you guarding? What
Right.
are you guarding? Because on this inside of you is not like just total opposite. And I'm so lucky to be able to see that other part.
Right.
Because
Right.
I mean, that's when you talked about this mask thing, just immediately she came to my mind because I'm like, oh man, we talk about mask. That lady's got a mask. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Now my daughter, she does take the mask off
mhm.
for certain people who are hurting, vulnerable. I mean, she becomes that caretaker even at 9 years old. I'm
Mm.
like so proud of her. And
Yeah.
this is another thing. I see her really take her mask off with animals. And that was another thing with myself. I mean, I was living in it was one of the worst environments, but you put an animal with me and it just melts me. It goes away and I'm able to really become who I am and let that animal in,
Yeah.
not people, but
Yeah.
animals. Yeah, I mean, I'm the first one to say, no, it's animals before people.
I think that's the way to go, though, you know? There's no judgment there. They love you for every part of you. That's the best part. If people, I think, for those of us who put up these masks, if we knew that people were like the dogs, where we knew that they love every part of us, that they cherish everything, the good, the bad, the whatever, the no judgment. Yeah, I don't think we'd have the masks that we wear.
Well, I mean, they helped me so much with my fear. I mean, did you ever have things to help you with when you were living in fear, like the animals did with me, or my little stuffed fairy? I had a stuffed
No.
fairy.
Did you? No. And this is part of my speaking is the only time that I felt little bit, well, I had two things. The only time that I felt the little bit that helped me was the teachers. And like if they,
Mhm.
I felt this connection with them, like you probably would a dog or whatever. But if I felt a connection, anytime I would see them or if they smiled, they said hi, it really kind of let off that weight on my chest and let me breathe a little bit.
When you go through a lot of trauma, one of the biggest things that can happen, and this did happen to me, and I've seen it happen to other people, is a failure to thrive.
Yeah.
And it is a real thing. And it can even happen when you're older. It is just not for babies, but
Yeah.
it can be instilled in you when you are very young. It can come out in mental health ways, from depression, eating disorders, hurting yourself in many types of ways, such as dependencies, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
can show itself in stresses. There can be relationship problems and financial problems. It can bring out an overall just not caring. and just this feeling of hopelessness and helplessness and the anxieties and just the overall stressors of life can just be too much where you live on a
Yeah.
shutdown. And like I said, it can happen very much so with adults at every single age, even in the elderly, especially in the elderly. There are a few key times in my life that I lived like this for a really long time, way longer than I should. When my dad died, and when I lived in a very abusive relationship that I've talked about, you
Mhm.
know, in many different ways here on the podcast, that happened to me where I lived on complete shutdown. And I would say that was a failure to thrive time for me. But because of those times in my life, I really feel that I would be in a different place in my life. I would be further along if I wouldn't have had those times happen to me. Now, I don't live there where I live in the, oh gosh, if this wouldn't have happened, if this wouldn't have happened, then I would be, but I really do believe that they stunted my life. Have you had those times that you were completely and utterly just hopeless in fear? And how did you find your way out?
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to like my childhood where I was, I go, it's the regrets. Like if I just said something, maybe I would have been rescued and I would have a different life and I would not have the fears that I have.
Mhm,
Um, Even, I mean, growing up, even into the young adult life where I just wish that I had the voice to do something or say something. But and I think if I did, like you think about where would you be if you
mhm,
just use the voice, if you just, were able to do that.
mhm.
Um,
That's good. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I was definitely, like I said, it's only been recently where I've been able to come out of that. Maybe if I did that, I would be further along with who I am or where I am, or maybe my life would have went a different path. I don't know. I love my life right now. I am perfect for where I'm supposed to be. So
Hmm.
things did work out no matter what road I did, I can't go back and change anything, but thank
Right.
God that thank God it worked out to where I am today, because it
Right.
could be worse. It could be worse if I chose different things. As far as in my adult life, I think that I wish that I had the courage to do the things I'm doing now a long time ago, because I think
Right.
that I would be, I am speaking and I did write and the speaking is getting more and more. But I think if I had not had that fear in me 5 years ago, I would be 10 times further of where I am today. And I just, that's where I definitely can see that I just wish I had that because, and I'm doing a good job, don't get me wrong, but I know that I would have been further along had I started, had I had this much courage to say things or come out of my shell, because that's basically what it is. Like, I'm being more of me now. I'm feeling safer to be me now. And if only
Hmm.
I did that like 5 years ago, I could have been ahead. But it's a journey I'm on, so I'm, you know, it's okay where I'm at.
Hmm. I swore that I would, I really do believe that I have found reasons to live and
Hmm.
to thrive
Yeah.
and be different and to flourish and not allow fear to be that mask anymore and be afraid. And I want to be able to be that strong one. I still have, and years ago, because my sister and I were separated and she was put into the system. And so I keep this with me all the time. And this is one of the biggest reasons she drew this. Let me see if I can get this
I
in the,
can. Yeah, I see it.
she drew
Wow.
this of the two of us in our woods behind our house. It was actually, she took a real photograph of us and she drew that for
That's
me.
incredible.
And it says sisters forever. And I keep that. hung up on the wall, and it's been with me wherever I've lived, or, I always keep it where I can see it because it's my purpose, it's my mission, it's my voice, it's my
Yeah.
reason for everything that I do. And
Yeah.
I want her to always know that I'm talking for us. I'm speaking for us. I'm trying to help those kids that were like us, and
Yeah.
hopefully somebody gets the help. And I never want to get back to where I was, where I felt stunted, where I wasn't able to take that mask off, because there were definitely times in my life that I felt so that way. But
Yeah.
now, I'm so utterly grateful for a platform and for a way to express things. I mean, we are given such an opportunity that some have not been able to have. So I feel very blessed and honored to be able to do this.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. If we could just give one kid, because I'm all about the kids, if even an adult though, if we could give someone a little courage to come, let that guard down and become who they
Mhm,
are,
mhm.
then, I think for me it's worth the risk. Um,
Yeah, and
yeah.
courage is the word. Courage is the word. I
Yeah.
mean, I actually wrote down the word courage because it takes courage to shed your mask and
Hmm.
show the world who you are. You
Yeah.
know, and for anybody that's listening, Denise and I, and always Tina, we want everybody to know that, you can believe in yourself. You can do this. We did this.
Yeah.
Believe in you. And here at Real Talk with Tina and Ann, we do believe in you. We know you can do it. You can take off that mask and you can be the real you.
Absolutely. It's a freedom. And tell you what, that breath that you can take from just having it's one step at a time. That's it. One baby step at a time, and soon you'll be running.
Yeah, I always say, because of the AANA sayings, one day at a time. And I always, sometimes it's just one breath at a time.
Yeah.
You just have to get to the next one. You just have to go in with the next step at a time, because you can see that step. And
Yeah. And
sometimes,
it's nice to have somebody to look at or hear that can say, I've got that relatability with you. You know, if I can be that person that you look at and say, you know what, I want to do that, or I want to be that, or whatever it is, keep that in front of you and say, I can do it. I can do it.
okay, Denise, you have some speaking engagements and things like that. Do you want to talk about your book a little bit and talk about some of the speaking that you have?
Yeah. So my book is for anybody who can see, it's uh there 30-second moments and the women who raised me. It's on Amazon. And it's basically my keynote speech. I do talk to educators about the difference that they're making. I really go into schools and I look morale. So I'm not the person that comes in and tells a teacher what they're not doing right. I think nowadays, especially nowadays, it's important to tell these educators all the things that they're doing right that they didn't know, because they're helping kids like myself who came from traumatic backgrounds to thrive, grow, and change. So I'll be up in New Jersey speaking at a few schools that I actually attended. So I'm really excited because these are the schools I was in and where the teachers
Mhm.
were in that I, saw, and then
Mhm.
locally here. And so, yeah, if you're a school district out there and you're looking to inspire, empower, and celebrate your teachers, you can find me, I think, through
Denise Denise Bard.
annbard.com. Yeah, absolutely.
DeniseBard.com.
That's it.
Okay, so that's great. Anything else? Any other plugs you want to put in there?
No, just, if you need a speaker, here I am, and please go buy my book.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Denise, for being here today. We really appreciate you, and we really appreciate everybody out there. Until next time. World changers aren't pleasing